We're the Meltdown. I'm Tim Melton. Joining me in studio, that is Tyler Johns, and we make up the dynamic duo that you see every day, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern on Meltdown Live. We have a little bit of a extra topic that we didn't have time for today that we wanted to get to because we've been talking about it off air, and it sort of got the wheels moving of where things can go. And I feel like if we're really excited to talk about it, there's a lot of other people that are really excited to talk about it as well, and that is the future of Matt Reeves's The Batman with The Batman Part 2. Last night was a little bit tough for me because we didn't have another Penguin episode. It's been tough to say goodbye to that series because it really did pitch a perfect game, but it's left us with a lot of questions about what will Batman's rogues gallery look like for the Batman Part 2. We've heard all kinds of rumors early on. There was a question about whether or not Mr. Freeze would be a part of the Batman Part 2. We've heard reports it's set at wintertime. Tyler, there's so much speculation, so much excitement, especially after the Penguin delivered what was a perfect season finale.
Oh,
Have you stopped thinking about the possibilities for Batman Part 2 since seeing that season finale? I haven't.
I know I haven't, and you know I haven't because I keep annoying you off camera with, well, have you seen this little detail? Do you think this character might show up? Have you heard this? So no, I have not been able to stop thinking about it, stop speculating about it, and stop bringing it up whenever you're around.
So, because of that, we decided let's go ahead and have this conversation on camera compared to off camera. And hopefully, you have some strong opinions as well about who you want to see in that next Batman movie because I am a diehard Batman fan and I will put Batman's Rogues Gallery up against any other comic book character as having the absolute best. And what Matt Reeves has done is he's decided to take it really to a grounded approach, really more of what we got in the Nolan era of Batman compared to even what we got in the Burton era, where the Penguin is more of an actual physical bird in Batman Returns than he is with Colin Farrell's sort of mobster Penguin.
That's just Danny DeVito.
That's just Danny DeVito. Schumacher obviously took it up to an 11 with the eccentric caliber of some villains, and Zack Snyder and the DCEU really wanted to pay its respects to a lot of comic book lore where you didn't quite get the payoffs of what you were promised. We were talking a little bit off air about that imagery of the Robin suit with the
Yes.
crowbar where you don't get the payoff of actually seeing the Joker commit that act of violence or really any sort of reference to that act of violence minus the still shot of the suit. There were so many different possible routes that DCEU could have gone that would have been narratively rewarding that we just didn't quite get there. And it was very frustrating as a movie fan first and a Batman fan second.
It's so frustrating that it's been nearly 10 years now since we saw that Robin suit with the spray paint on it and the crowbar next to it. Everybody loses their minds going, they're bringing Jason Todd, Red Hood to the DCEU.
Didn't
No,
happen.
nope. We're having to wait until the DCU to see a Jason Todd, and it's going to be a puppet.
And the reason that I feel very strongly about bringing up these things that didn't narratively pay off is because I don't want to fall in that trap again. Because it hurts.
Correct.
It hurts to think about the possibilities and then to be underwhelmed. Penguin was a lovely surprise in that everyone was really excited for it, but it enhanced the lore so much that it made 2022's The Batman so much better of an experience when it was already top tier Batman stuff.
I'm planning on rewatching it sometime this
I,
week. The Batman, that is. I need to go back and watch that now that I've seen the Penguin.
it is there's actually there was a YouTuber that did a wonderful job of putting the Penguin series and the Batman 2022 in sort of a mismatch with different music behind it that does a really good job. We're going to put it in the description here for all of you Bat fanatics because I can't quit watching it. I'm going to show it to you, Tyler. It's really, really good. But I can't remember the YouTuber's name off the top of my head. So check the description for that. But it's a wonderful thing to really show, once again, how strong that 2022 entry was and where we're going here with the Penguin into the Batman Part 2. So, with all that out of the way of why we're having this sort of manic episode that we're having, Who's going to be the villain in the Batman Part 2? Obviously, Oz is being brought back.
Yep.
That's been confirmed. He will make an appearance. Will it be a lot like what we saw in the first Batman, where he's just playing basically a side character? I think so.
I think so as well. Colin Farrell said he only has about 5 or 6 scenes in
Yeah,
the Batman Part 2.
I don't see him in any way being the main villain. So he's going to be a great garnish to what
Mhm.
could be a wonderful dish. And I want to start off with who I think is the heavy hitter of possible rogues that will be in the Batman Part 2.
Alright, let's hear it.
This is who I think would send the most shockwaves through the Batman community.
Alright.
The Court of Owls.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
If that gets
That's the
announced,
hype answer.
if that gets announced or confirmed as being officially official, and we've got little tastes
The
in,
little bits, little owl-shaped curtains in
yeah,
the courtroom in the Penguin, and that's confirmation for me because 'cause you've got this story building up to an anti-corruption task force. There's corruption in the city. It goes deeper than you think, and then Penguin walks into a literal courthouse of owls.
that is correct. And once again, they changed his last name from Cobblepot to Cobb, and Cobb is also the last name of, was it Talon, who's one of the mercenaries of
Yeah?
the Court of Owls. And so there's a lot of lore that seems to have been perfectly sculpted to bring in the Court of Owls. But Tyler, I think what interests you and what interests me is Bruce Wayne not just having to suit up as Batman to fight, physically, but having to fight a socialite ideology of who's actually running Gotham to the point where it breaks his spirit and it breaks his sanity in a way that connects him even further to the failings of his past and his
Mhm.
family's past, that could really break him in a way that, if we're going with what Matt Reeves has already thrown out, that Robert Pattinson in this upcoming Batman movie, he'll at times regret being Batman, at
Yeah.
times he'll question whether or not he should continue on as Batman. I feel like all of that leads directly to the Court of Owls in the source material we have, and it being able to be extracted in perfect spots to be able to provide something cinematically that we have never seen before. We saw it a little bit in the Gotham television show reference to. We saw it a little bit in the cartoon lore here of Batman meeting the Court of Owls. Obviously, we've seen it in the comics, but we've never seen it cinematically. And now I think audiences are mature enough to be able to
Yes.
handle a deep layered story like this with a bunch of other little pieces around causing Batman all kinds of problems.
And one of those little pieces, I think, will be Hush, Thomas Elliot. So in the Batman 2022, we see a journalist. The death of a journalist is exposed who tried to expose Martha Wayne's family history of mental illness.
Mhm.
We know Thomas Wayne tries to cover it up. That journalist's name was Edward Elliot.
These,
Edward Elliot is the father
yeah,
of Thomas Elliot, known as Hush.
right. A uh, childhood friend of Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
This is going to be interesting to see how, with all these different names that are thrown out, what decision they make of what path they want to go down. I do feel like there's a lot of open doors that you can walk through right now. I personally don't think they'll introduce Hush and the Court of Owls in the same movie.
No, I think it'll be either Hush in part 2, Court of Owls part 3, or vice versa. But I would think Hush, then Court of Owls.
There's some
But
studio executive somewhere going, can we not just play the hits and play the safe route? And I'm a little nervous. And then they probably saw the way Penguin handled everything. And
yeah,
they're like, you know what? People seem to be on board with this. We need a big hit, commercial hit, not only successfully commercial, but also successfully narratively being brought to audiences to where they're actually enjoying what we're doing, to where I can see them being willing to take a risk like bringing in a non-established cinematic character like Hush or like Court of Owls. I am leaning more Court of Owls here for
I'm also
Batman
leaning more
Part 2.
Court of Owls, but I've seen some convincing theories of Hush being in the movie, and some theories even saying Hush was working with the Riddler all along. But, you know, I don't know how much stock you wanna put into that. It does make sense that there was a bomb sent for Bruce Wayne and it was written differently, but that could have also been the Riddler since they kinda took a little bit of Hush's backstory for the Riddler in the 2022, film, but, we'll have to see. I think he's less likely than the Court of Owls, though, for sure.
If you remember at the initial crime scene in the Batman, when he opens up the card, on front of the card, there's an owl on the front of the card. You
Alright,
remember that?
I've gotta find a picture of this now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Batman, uh, greeting
Yeah.
card.
And we'll throw it up on the screen right here for you to
Yeah.
look at too, because we need you to see this. But I mean, if you want to talk about laying it on thick of possible things, I mean, I feel like the owl imagery, which is the natural predator of the bat in the first place, I feel like we're leaning hard and heavy into the Court of Owls here for
From
Batman
your
Part Two.
secret friend.
Yeah,
Whoop.
yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know. I feel pretty passionate. It's Court of Owls. I would love to see Clayface. Obviously, if it's Hush, you're going to get, I think, more of a Clayface angle here.
Yep.
There's questions about whether or not we've already been introduced to Clayface here in the Penguin series, and that all has to do with names as well.
Yes. So Penguin's lady friend, Eve. Her last name is shown for a little bit when you see her ID. Eve Carlo. Now, Basil Carlo is most commonly known as Clayface. So there's little bit of a theory, a little bit of speculation on whether Eve will be this universe's Clayface as sort of a lady Clayface, or if she's brothers with Clayface and he'll be introduced later.
Are all of these name changes just happy accidents, or are they Easter eggs for all of us to lose our mind over because we're trying to piece together exactly what direction the Batman Part 2 is going? And
And another character that was hinted at didn't even get a name. Well, he got a very big name change, but it wasn't one of those little ones where the name itself is an Easter egg. That's Scarecrow. We were introduced to Julian Rush in The Penguin. And in episode 4, when they're in Arkham Asylum, there's a shot of Dr. Rush's desk, and you see, as I'll throw up here on the screen now, you see the classic glove with the syringe fingers poking out, and you also see the very comic book Scarecrow mask complete with the noose. Did they We know that they wanted to make an Arkham series before the Penguin was officially in production. Is this just left over, like, sort of the birth of Scarecrow as part of the Arkham series, or what's going on here? Or are they just testing the waters to see if we would like Theo Rossi as Scarecrow?
if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, there were 3 series that were in development. One was the Penguin, one was an Arkham
And the
series,
other was the Gotham PD one.
and one was the Gotham City Police Department series. And it ended up pretty much they took a lot of the ideas after it was determined that they just try to do one really good series
Mhm.
compared to spreading themselves thin and maybe overcommitting with characters that they didn't feel like were proven. And I think they probably took a lot of the ideas they had and threw them into the Penguin series. So you're right. Is this one of those ideas they had of having Scarecrow pop up in the Arkham series and they decided to just kind of keep an Easter egg in there for everybody? I don't know. I want answers. And unfortunately, all we have right now are questions.
Yeah, and even if I were to answer my own question for Scarecrow, I think it makes sense. We saw the Bliss drug being produced in Arkham, and we also see Vic later in the season when he's passing out the Bliss
Yeah.
have a very scared reaction, very fearful, if you will. Like he had been hit with fear toxin.
We both desperately want to see Hugo Strange as a part of the Rogues Gallery
Yeah.
cinematically at some point.
I think his name not being Crane made us put blinders on. It's like, oh, this has got to be Hugo Strange, or
Maybe
it's
so.
just, or it's just no one. But
We're losing our minds,
we
and
are.
that's a perfect time to be talking about Arkham Asylum and a perfect time to be talking about the future of Batman. I still think they're probably going to lean into the winter theming. That seems
Mhm.
like something that's been consistent. However, whether or not Mr. Freeze is going to be a part of that still, I think that was a very early report, and I have no idea. James Gunn has confirmed that Matt Reeves is still writing the script as we speak, and a lot of the focus is going to be shifting very soon to Superman once the
Yep.
first trailer comes out and the buzz starts going for that one because it is coming out in 2025. Batman Part 2 coming out in 2026. It feels like it's forever away, but
It does.
it'll be here before you know it. I just hope we get some announcements along the way that keep whetting the appetite, because if you're a fan of the Batman and you're a fan of the Penguin series, you're looking for any sort of morsel of information that you can get to try to keep this party going, because it has been one of the most rewarding things lately to be able to chew into, especially after Joker Folia Do flopped as hard as it did.
Oh yeah. One little morsel of information we did get was that Bella Real would be
Mhm.
putting together an anti-corruption task force in Gotham, and to me that just screams they're bringing Harvey Dent in there. I I have to
Maybe.
say it. I have to say it.
And what do you keep hearing from me? Well, maybe that makes sense. Harvey Dent professionally makes sense,
Mhm.
but Harvey Dent is one of the most overutilized side characters in Batman cinema that has existed since Tommy Lee Jones popped up on screen in 1995.
And we still haven't seen his rivalry with Penguin.
No, we have not, or really with Catwoman. I mean, uh,
And we know Selena Kyle's in the next one.
we do, but I don't know if they'll go that route, especially since we just got a young Harvey Dent in Joker 2, even though it wasn't very satisfying. He was in there yet again, another Harvey Dent. And I don't know how many more iterations we're going to get of Harvey Dent before they eventually go, you know what, let's introduce some fresh blood to the cast. I don't know. I don't know, Tyler. I'm not as sold on Harvey Dent's definitely going to be a part of the Batman Part 2, but we will see. We will see. All right, that's sort of where we're at right now when it comes to the choice for who's going to be Batman's main villain in Part 2. I am concerned that um, if we don't get answers soon, we're going to lose our sanity.
I,
Tyler,
I'm about to just start screaming it. I think it's gonna be Professor Pig.
is that what you're going with?
Yep, yep. The lack of information has just driven me crazy. I need updates now, or I'm just gonna believe that it's Professor Pig and Man Bat as the main villains for Batman Part Two.
Trying to think, isn't there Calendar Man? I'm going to go Calendar Man.
Calendar Man
Go Calendar
is
Man.
an option. Firefly, maybe we'll get Brendan Fraser's Firefly in this.
I doubt that very much. MyBookie.ag is where you can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. Plenty of opportunities to cash out and win or let it ride at MyBookie. Make sure you use promo code NEXTROUND for a first time deposit bonus. Bet and play absolutely anything, anytime, anywhere, only with our title sponsor, MyBookie. For Tyler, I'm Tim. We're both really excited over the future of Batman, and we want to thank all the different producers, all the studio execs that somehow let the Penguin get through the creative process. And we want to thank Matt Reeves for creating a universe that right now we can actually buy stock into.
Matt
It's
Reeves is the goat.
it's so far, it's a very exciting time to be a Batman fan, and we're very, very pumped up for what is coming next. If you have any sort of guesses of who the next main baddie is going to be, or maybe that cast of characters that you want to see in the next film, let us know in the comment section below, and make sure you like and subscribe here to the Meltdown.